Okay, welcome to the Network Service Management meeting. We hold this meeting at 8 a.m. Pacific every Tuesday, and we also hold an issues and PR meeting a half hour before this call, which is every 7:30 a.m. Pacific. We also participate in a number of other events, including the CNCF Cloud Native Network Function Working Group, which occurs every Monday at 1600 UTC, and the CNCF Tag Network, which occurs every first and third Thursday of every month at also at 9 a.m. Pacific. So we have details in the agenda if you're interested in attending. We also have a couple upcoming events. The next one is the Open Source Summit North America, which is occurring in June 21st to 24th. And we also have KubeCon North America, which is October 24th through 28th. The CFPs for both of these are currently closed, though for KubeCon North America, there are co-located events that the CFP may already be open or may open up soon. So we'll keep an eye on that. No major announcements at the moment. In terms of Twitter stats, we have 6 additional followers and have followed an additional 20 people with 10 total posts. We've also reposted all this information on LinkedIn as well. So let's jump straight into the agenda. The first one is on Spire agent. So I still have some checking to do on this. I've not gotten to this work just yet. To recap, this one was an issue where if Spire was not available yet, then the agent would fail to start and would retry. And likewise, that means that there's no bundles that could be sent across at that time either. But that also adds additional latency because of the fallback as well over time. So there are some questions there that we were going to take a look at to see if we can change it to possibly wait for an event. And once that event says that maybe Spire server is up or similar, then we can look at, well, let's go start the agent. So was there anything else that was added that was part of that issue, or did I capture it properly?
Actually, that was a right capture. So, however, some progress made in this topic, because I got the opinion via the GitHub issue from Spire community. Actually, according to that guy, the timing between when the server publishes its bundle to config map and when the agent container sees it, it's not under control of Spire. Therefore, the retry logic doesn't seem to be appropriate in Spire agent, and the suggestion in the end is to implement it in an init container. And we had some trials previously as well to add another waiting loop in the init container in the existing one after the Spire TCP server is available, and it should wait for the bundle to be in place. Even with just some seconds waiting, it doesn't work. However, when I added another init container, a second one, within 1 second sleep, it always works well. So I don't say it's a proper solution, but a kind of workaround. This way, I ran 300 tests, and all was successful without any agent restart.
Yeah, I'll also check into this, because when you change a config map, it should still tell you at some point, like he is correct that there is, when the config map is published, that they don't have control over Kubernetes in terms of how quickly Kubernetes will synchronize and push that out. But there should be an event that occurs once it's there, which is the thing that we should be able to watch. So it is possible that maybe that event does not actually coincide with when the config map is actually there. So that is definitely possible. But it's something that we should look at, because if the event occurs after the config map is published, then all we have to do is watch for that, and that should be appropriate. So we'll double check that.
Okay, I think I will put this finding into the issue, because that could work as a workaround anyway. I mean, second init container, even doesn't matter what it does. It should take just 1 second or less than the config map will be in place. So it's strange. It's like a kind of scheduling issue, but I don't know. But I will put it into the issue as a comment.
Okay. Yeah, that may also just jog some thinking on their part. I know, like, often when I'm looking at an issue and I'm like, yeah, no, this is just not a thing. And then someone's like, yeah, but I got this weird behavior. I'm like, oh, I know where that's probably breaking. So adding it to the issue is probably a good plan.
Yeah, and it is possible that maybe Kubernetes, the lifecycle of the config map, is deficient in this respect. So it could be an issue that we really genuinely cannot tell when the config map actually is there, because maybe there is a gap where you see the event, but it's still not reflected. But I suspect that we should be in good shape there. So we'll take a look at it.
All right.
Cool.
Sorry, Zoom is acting up on me with the mute button. Okay.
Happens.
Okay, so we had an NSM 1.4 release. The release notes are available for review. So if
we want to take a quick look at them, I mean, the big thing we wanted to make sure is that we captured all the things that should go into the release notes correctly, because it is not often the case. It is often the case that the person doing the first draft of the release notes doesn't actually have in their head all the stuff that was done, and so it's worth syncing up. Do you want to take a quick look through this and see if folks see things that are missing? So we've got the advanced healing based on the data path, the application monolith via NSM use case, updating to Go 1.18. We started using reuse.
For Go 1.18, there's a difference between compiling with 1.18 versus being compatible only with 1.18 and above. So it would be good to get some clarification there.
That's excellent. If you could add a comment on the PR, that would be fantastic. That way the comment gets captured. We've got some advanced VL3 use cases that looks, for example, at recovery, healing and recovery examples, and floating interdomain and scale VL3 network from 0. And we've got some NSM plus Istio integration as well. Dual stack examples. And then I don't know, we may want to go through and make sure we captured this correctly. I know this is something you've been working on, Laszlo.
Hi. Yes, it is working.
You're very faint, Laszlo.
Yeah. Now is better.
Much
Can you
better.
hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So yes, this is working and it is in place and tested.
Yeah, if there's anything you'd like to see changed or improved about the description, absolutely feel free.
No, but it's okay.
Cool. And then is there anything that we missed for 1.4 that folks want to capture? Okay. All right, so if folks have comments they'd like to add, let's get them added in the next day or so, and we can look at moving forward to get this in place so we can do the formal announcement. Sound good?
Okay, so with that, we have the NSM 1.5 schedule release. So in terms of the dates, have we circulated this enough that we're comfortable with these dates?
So we've had past discussions about having an 8-week cycle for NSM 1.5. These are the natural dates that flow from having an 8-week cycle, and we've had some detailed discussion about that. I only just put these dates up here this week, so I would not be averse to holding off on actually committing to them until next week, if that's fine for folks, if that's what folks would like. But these are the dates that sort of naturally flow from an 8-week cycle, which have been what we previously settled on. Do folks want to, give it a week to go back and talk to various folks before we pull the final trigger on this? All right then.
Okay,
Let's give it another week there. Sound good?
So I think that sounds good, and with that, we should jump into the demo and have a watch. So let's make sure the person who's giving the demo. So we need to stop the screen share and then make sure that the individual has the ability to share.
Okay, first of all, I would like to share a short presentation on it. Let me try to share my screen. Can you see it?
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, so actually we have formed a small group with the goal to create an operator for network service mesh. Our team is right now Alexander, Lionel, Johan, and myself. Now we reach the point where we can present a demo on the operator. I'm going to show a few slides about the background and concept of the Kubernetes operators. I promise it will be very short. Then Alexander will come with the demo itself. Here comes the obvious question. What is a Kubernetes operator? The main goal of a Kubernetes operator is to grab the task of a human operator that's managing the service or services. It is an application or domain-specific controller that helps in packaging, deploying, and managing the entire life cycle of the Kubernetes application. Kubernetes operator is extending the functionality of the Kubernetes API, making it possible to create, configure, and manage instances of applications automatically by structured process. It's based on CRDs, of course. We can find here the same control loop mechanism that is default in Kubernetes. And I also shared the operator hub URL here. why is it important? It builds a standard for the applications and puts together all of their needs in one place. Kubernetes operators could handle complex business logic, make it hidden from the service operators, keep their work simple. The reiterative tasks can easily be automated. It improves consistency by the mentioned automation of operations teams. Traditional tasks like install, upgrade, maintenance, and all the lifecycle related items. And the automation can be implemented on a level that is required, like basic installation, seamless upgrades, complete lifecycle management with backups and disaster recovery, deep insights with monitoring and analytics, autopilot with on-the-fly configuration changes, and so on. So, a few words about the benefits. I think from the previous slides, many of the benefits of Kubernetes Operator is obvious. It makes cluster administrators' life easier since they can manage the deployments with minimal toil. It keeps their tasks simpler by hiding the complexity of the business logic. More complexity in more environments, of course, makes more benefits of an operator. And last but not least, what it could mean for NSM project. It would give more visibility via operator hubs and operator framework community, and also opens the door for integration with already existing applications in the operator ecosystem. And as I mentioned, I will try to keep it short and give the stage to Alexander for the demo now. So I will stop sharing if I.
Thanks. Now let's see if I can share as well, because it's quite a while that I don't use Zoom. So I'll try to share my screen. Something happens, I'll let you know. But yeah, I'm ready to run it. So I have a cluster running and everything here. So just a second.
Live demos, that takes courage.
Yeah. It's always like this. So, okay, so first problem I see here is I cannot see my full screen. And I do have a few desktops here and I cannot see the images there. So I'm not sure if it is a permission issue or something like that. Okay, so now it's selected the right one. It's telling me at least. And I'll try to share. Let's see if you can see that. So let's see what happens. Right, share button is not doing anything. So I guess I need to, yeah, okay, allow, all right. So just a second, it's asking for permission. This is literally a live and narrated thing. Just a second. I hope I can put everything together real quick. All right, Zoom, yes, you are allowed. So it's asking me to reopen Zoom. I'll apologize for that. Give me 1 minute. It should be enough.
It's all okay. Take your time.
Okay, thank you. Right, can you still hear me?
I hear you.
Yes.
Oh, I think it didn't even drop me. So it's kind of, I can see now my screens correctly. So I guess the share will probably work. And I guess you can see my screen.
I can see.
Yep, we see it.
Yep.
Cool. Let me bring this thing to the other one.
It's even a good font size.
Is it good? Is it readable?
I find it readable.
Yes.
Okay, nice. Let me try to bring this out of the way. All right. So it is also really quick and short. And before I forget, I do have a link that I would share with you the way you want. So I can just share the link. You can copy that as well and put anywhere else. that you want with a full 1 hour deep dive on this code base.
Ooh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it's detailed, everything. So it's not a lot of code. If you look in the project, you see that most of it is kind of scaffolded and generated by Operator SDK. So, but there are quite a few things, especially for folks trying to speed up with operators. So it's quite nice to watch.
So
because
I also noticed something here that was not mentioned in Sislard's presentation,
right?
Which is that your NSM kind here for NSM deployment for your operator also brings increased semantic clarity, because you can see what the things are semantically. You call out forwarders and registries. That's not intrinsically obvious when you're talking about pod specs.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Like ideally, we should have the components described in this. Oh, sorry, I just bumped into something here. Let me go back there. So ideally, this CRD, this custom resource definition, or this CR particularly, which is an example, using the memory registry, should describe the components that you want to put together as an NSM deployment, right? So and forwarders, fortunately, it is, if you look closely, it is in plural, it is a list, so you can put more than one at the same time as well, if you have that, right? So yeah, so to be like completely straightforward here, don't let me forget about the link. I want to comment more on that and share the link with you. So to install the operator, if you just pull the project right now, you're gonna get version 1.2.0. This one I just tested this morning, and it was okay. I think I can just do the demo with the 1.4.0, which is the latest. I think it's cooler if we have the latest, right? So I have this branch here, and I should merge this probably today, right? So you'll have the code from there. So now comes the magic command. So we have a make file full of targets here. I'm not going to that right now, right? So I'm just going
make files intrinsically. That is the way make files always end up, is full of targets.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll just say make deploy, which is the simplest thing you can do, and that thing should deploy the operator itself. So, and then I'll explain what it is doing. So when I say make deploy, it creates the NSM namespace. It will install from a Helm chart the Spire workloads necessary to run that. It will configure Spire for you, right? And after everything is done, it will finally deploy the operator pod, right? So it takes a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, and then it will deploy.
So quick question: has anybody written a Spire operator at this point, or is that still?
Yeah, that's kind of a long discussion. Like Szilard and Lionel, they asked me about that. I have a friend that wanted to develop that, but our agendas are kind of really crazy. I myself wanted to develop one for Spire. Spire is a nice tool, but it's quite a lot, right? Ideally, if we had the operator and we are using the operator lifecycle manager, we could install NSM operator and get it dependent on the Spire operator. And then once you ask OLM to install NSM, it will immediately call the other operator before that, and then put everything together in place for you. So that will be the dream picture there. So
a little bit of context there as well. There are two things that the Spire community could receive that I think would move the needle quite substantially. The biggest one by far is direct Kubernetes support. The second one is some form of either a really good Helm or operator in order to help with the install. Because right now, every time someone wants to go and install, it's a very complex set of steps that involve modifying a whole set of things and understanding the whole life cycle of Spire, and it shouldn't be like that. So if you're a good portion of the way there, not suggesting that you have to do it, but if you either find there's extra time, or perhaps I can try to find someone who's willing to take some of the work that you've done and try to shop it around to see if somebody would be willing to do the extra work in order to get it to production ready. So either one will be fine. But I think that like even just having the ability to do this as it is right now with an NSM, I actually think NSM is by far the easiest way to install Spire at the moment, which it shouldn't be like that.
That is moderately terrifying.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, like, well, to be honest, like it's totally possible to put the pieces together, but keep going forward and maintaining the project, that will be a challenge. So if you can have people coming in and taking the lead on the project, I myself would be more than happy to try and put together the, let's say, the kickoff operator, and then having people around to take care of it and go forward, and also enable these people as well to develop an operator if they never did one. So
yeah, and this would help with the long-term sustainability as well, because if someone shows up and they see Spire is super difficult to install, they're not going to want to run it in their infrastructure in the long term, and rightfully so. So in order for Spire's long-term survivability, it needs to be easier to operate, and so this is directly in alignment with that.
Yeah, that's nice. So we can have further conversations on that. I'll be happy to help kicking off this project. But to be completely honest, I don't see myself being the owner and the maintainer of that project. That's proven to me that sometimes it's better to be their helping hand to start something, but having people that can actually commit time to that, to take care of it, to, you know. So yeah, that's
I think that's fine. And the way that I would try to do it would be, I have workloads that are running with Spire, and so what and the requirement is to use the upstream open source version of that. So if it's built, then I can set things up so that we start to use them, and then I can turn around and turn to the groups that I work with within Spire, who some of them are actually paid to go off and maintain some of that stuff. And so getting features built is harder. Getting people to commit to building features, oddly enough, is harder than getting people to commit to maintaining when you're in the position I'm in. So so if it's there, I should be able to find some resources somewhere to pick up the slack there.
Oh, let's keep in touch on that. We'll circle back to that at some point. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to derail the demo though, but just yeah, keep that in mind. So please continue.
Okay, cool. So what I just did, make deploy, right? And as I said, namespace, Spire configuration, and an operator pod. So everything that I should see here, let me try to in my screen. If I say OC or kubectl for Kubernetes and get pods, I'm already pointing to the NSM namespace as my default namespace. I see the operator running here, but if I say OC get pods on the Spire namespace, I'll also see some pods running and Spire itself like configured. Here I have a cool thing, which is a single node OpenShift cluster, which is something very nice for quick labs and demos like this. So I just have one node. This is why we have less pods in most of the deployments. And right now, all that I need to do once I have the operator running there, so which is a single pod, it's watching for resources on the NSM namespace, and at this point, the operator is opinionated. And I'm saying that because if you look in the main file here, we'll have, I'm not going deep into this, but we'll have this hard coded here that says that the controller will spin up and work for the NSM namespace, specifically watching that namespace. So, but it's totally changeable, right? If we want. And once I get in and I apply this CR that you see here, which is a kind NSM, and I say OC apply -f, it's under config samples, and I just say NSM, NSM, and I have more than one. One is the registry K8s, and this one is the memory registry, which is the one I just tested. I still need to do some tests on the other one to bump it to version 1.4. So if I just apply this guy, it should create an NSM object, right? And I say OC get NSM. Now I have an NSM sample, and OC describe NSM sample should give me, right, should give me what I'm actually trying to deploy there, right, with the spec and everything else. I have a at this moment, we have a pretty poor status view that is just saying phase running. It should be like creating, running, installing, something like that. Not a lot of options for now, but we can enrich this data a lot with conditions and all that stuff that we like. But after that, we should be able to see this. The pods are running there. We have a registry. We have, I see a restart on the operator, not sure why, but at least it says it's running. So we do have registry, we do have the NSM manager and the VPP. And then I have a sample application. Go ahead, somebody with that something.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, this is the amusing part about Kubernetes is things crash and they still keep working. And so you have to notice that they crash.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. I believe maybe because of this, I'm not sure, but maybe because of this. This is the manager. This is the YAML file for the operator deployment. I think those numbers here may have to be bumped up. Just
yeah, I know we're forever fighting the nature of limits. So yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's it. Once it gets like it spins up a lot of workloads or something like that, it gets a little bit too busy. And this is pretty a skinny pod, I would say. So all right. So after that, I have the pods. So now I have an example application, which is actually an ICMP responder, which is under the same folder. So all I need to do is say helm install app, which would be an application. Just to be clear, I'm putting on the NSM namespace. This guy is also under config, also under samples, but then under an application folder. So what this guy will do once I run it, it will put 2 more pods on the NSM namespace. And once I have those pods in, we'll see get pods. Now I have an NSC and an NSE, right? And all that I need to do to check if NSM did the correct work there is OC exec into one of those pods. Let's say the client, for example, and then I get it. And then I'll just say bin shell. And once I'm in, I can see IP address and I can see the NSM secondary interface being created. And I can grab this network prefix here and use it to ping the endpoint that is his brother, kind of, because there's /32 network, but they actually can ping each other, right? So that's the demo. That's pretty much it. It works if we stack on top of that multiple applications, and we have the samples. I'm calling it samples, but it could be actually a nice folder with, let's say, the default YAML files for each one of those deployments. Then people will have the choice of just grabbing one or the other with a few, like, let's say, opinionated configurations that should be running on a cluster, right?
No, this is super cool. Quick question: you said you're running this on a one node OpenShift cluster, correct?
Yeah. You just say OC get node. It's just one node.
Okay. No, that's fantastic. The reason I was asking is that we don't currently have CI for OpenShift, so it's really exciting to see, because every time you deal with a sort of slightly different, with a different environment, and OpenShift has its own nits.
Right.
You occasionally trip across little details. So for example, for GKE, they don't have vhost user, and so we have to use some veth pair magic, etc. So the fact that this is just working out of the box on OpenShift is really heartening.
Yeah, it is, but be aware that there is a lot of privileges that they needed to be put in place, right? It's not a big deal. I see like NSM as a platform service, so you should have cluster admin privileges and like some root user internally in the containers. Can we trim off those to less privileges, probably yes, but not to a point where it will be like a completely restricted user, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there are certain things, for example, that the forwarder does that just can't be trimmed down. And we've actually had some discussions about that recently on some of the issues. So for example, the forwarder, because the forwarder has to be able to change network namespaces in order to insert interfaces correctly, it turns out that you can't change network namespaces with less than capsysadmin. That's just what it takes.
Yeah.
And then the other one that came out there is because we will go through, if someone decides to use IPv6 in a namespace, we will go turn it on in that namespace, and that requires proxys to be mounted.
Makes
So,
sense.
you know, but that's, so unfortunately, though the forwarder, you know, it's not impossible. We can find ways to trim the privilege down for the forwarder. But so far it needs to do fairly powerful things, but everything else is unprivileged, right? The network service manager is unprivileged, the network service endpoints are unprivileged, the network service clients are unprivileged. But if there's anything that needs to be added to the RBAC, I presume that's in your RBAC directory there.
Yeah. Actually, the RBAC will capture the operator's permission. I have another one for the registry K8s here that I'm still testing this, but it's pretty much the same. But the permissions being applied are actually being used as well by the other workloads. So yeah, I still have to trim off a few things here.
Yeah,
But
I mean, the general rule is nothing but the forwarder should require any kind of special privileges at all.
got it. I guess the biggest challenge on that are the Unix sockets and the path they are being mounted. So
Okay.
maybe only that. So I
Okay.
know I can trim off some privileges there, and make it a little bit better. But yeah, if you're messing up with network interfaces directly on the system, especially for IPv6 that you need to enable on the nodes itself, and then you need to tweak the sys file system.
I no, but I believe that we're actually enabling it per namespace, so we're not really tweaking with the node level stuff per se.
Right.
But
if you need access to a kernel interface to say, hey, this namespace I want. When you say namespace, we're saying Linux namespace or Kubernetes namespace.
So Linux network namespace is what I mean specifically.
Okay. Yeah.
And yes, there are too many namespaces in the world.
Yeah, that's right. So that said, it is actually a kernel interface if you want to tap into the Linux network namespace. Yeah. So even if you don't change the whole node, you need to communicate to the kernel directly, right?
Well, so yeah, effectively. But the good news is that part of of things are sort of well understood. The good news is that you figured out the tweaks that are necessary for OpenShift,
Right.
which is fantastic. And now, when you mentioned a single node OpenShift cluster, does OpenShift have anything that is kind shaped that one can run on one's laptop?
Actually, for now, what people are using is the code ready containers. That is getting like more and more sophisticated. There is also a new project that I heard about, but it's more for like developers, and I'm not sure if that project has a full OpenShift cluster there. And yes, you can run a single node OpenShift on the laptop, but your laptop must be kind of beefy to handle a VM like that. Yeah.
That's fine. Anyway, no, we can come back around to that. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been asking all the questions. Do other folks have questions?
And while we are kind of talking here, I'll try to share the link. Let me find it here real quick, because I do have a link here with a full 1 hour deep dive on this code base that we did together, me, Slard, Lionel, and Johan. So let me just find out this link here. I want to share with you as well. Right, so we should be able to copy. I'm actually sharing, it was not shared to everyone. Now it is. So Ed, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to copy this link and just paste on the chat? Do you prefer me to put on the meeting notes? What is the best way to do that? I can't hear you. I don't know if you're on mute.
Apologies, I muted myself in an
Oh,
effort
okay.
to stop being the only person asking questions. Yeah, if you could just put it in the meeting minutes, that's usually the easiest place to find that.
Okay, let me try to do that. So right, I'll put right under here the demo. So just open another line here and just paste the link and maybe put a tag there or something. Just put here NSM Operator Deep Dive and just make sure the link actually opens. Let me test this. Okay, it opens. Yeah.
Excellent.
It works. Nice.
Always good when the links work.
Yeah. Can you open the link? Is that working for you?
Yep, that works great for me.
Cool. Yeah, if any other person wants to take a look at it and wants to ask questions after that, or even put suggestions, open issues, whatever it is, it will be my pleasure to answer anything. So you have my email on the attendees list, and I'm also on the CNCF Select as well. So yeah, please feel free to reach out.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
I got one comment. Can I ask?
Please.
In general, I think operator is totally good thing for NSM, and I think it would be nice if we can somehow add an example for folks for deployments Kubernetes repository. We also can run the demo on our continuous integration system to check that we did not break it with new releases, for example.
This starts to loop back around to the discussion with Alexandre about whether or not you'd like to sort of release the NSM operator in step with the rest of network service mesh.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like one of the things that
good.
Yeah, I would just say that when you see this version here on the screen, like the V140, it's now only being used by the network service manager, right? So my question is, do I really need to do this and then put also a tag in here, put also a tag in here? I was thinking, what if the operator receives the V140 and behind the scenes, I make sure all the images are actually at the same level, but still giving people like flexibility if they wanted to build something custom out of it?
Yeah, no, I totally. And the interesting question here is, how do you manage the flexibility? Because the common user is going to probably just want all those things in lockstep, but you will definitely have cases, where there are folks who want to move out of lockstep, if for no other reason than for testing. And
Right.
so how to handle the semantics of that, and particularly how you handle the semantics of that when you are looking, for example, at the CI case, where you're actually testing against a collection of hashes or a collection of SHAs instead of against an actual tagged version.
Right.
also gets to be interesting. So are you aware sort of how the current pipeline works for network service mesh?
Kind of,
Would that-
not fully aware. I know the hashes are there because I've been like using them as well, but I'm not
Do you
sure
mind-
how they get there.
Do you mind if I share?
No, not at all. Let me stop sharing here.
Cool. All right, so we actually have this developer resources link off the community page, right? So if you go to community, you can see this diagram. And what this basically shows you is our repo pipelining. So, API is a repo that when you merge something, it will push a patch to SDK, which will then run through CI. And if it passes, it gets auto merged, which will then push patches to these SDKs and down the line until we get to a bunch of these commands that basically get run. And all of those funnel into deployment K8s, which is where we have all of our examples documented in Markdown. We then have a tool that compiles the examples to Go tests in integration tests. And we then run them first in kind, but then across a variety of other environments. And so, as a result of that, we can, we basically have, and by the way, the arrows that are in red are literally telling you that some attempt to push did not pass CI and you should go take a look at it and figure out what's going on. That's all done dynamically with some magic in the background. And so, if we were going to add the operator, I don't think the operator actually has any dependencies on any of the sort of SDK API stuff, which is fantastic. But we would probably put it somewhere in the dependency tree and have that also push into deployment K8s, where any examples that we document if we're using the operator there would then become tests, which would then be run across all the environments.
So I have one note on that, which is like one thing that is totally possible is replacing that make deploy command by a single YAML file that could totally help with that, I think. And of course, the samples that I have on the project would have to be like more elaborate, maybe. And maybe you need to deploy two things, right? First, the operator and then the CRs.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, if you take a look at deployment K8s, for example, all the examples that we have are literally things like, if I were to take a look at, say, the basic use case, right, which is very similar to the example you showed. It basically requires Spire, so we'll go and start up Spire, and there are directions for a human for starting up Spire here.
Right.
And we actually compile all this to something that makes sure that those directions are still working. And then, basically, and this is for the example using customize, right? You create a namespace, you apply the customize for this namespace. You wait for the admissions webhook to come up, and then you can go through and once that's true, you can go through and try any of these combinations that you'd like under that, right? Any of the sort of possible combinatorics that you would want to have. So for the example that you have for the operator, it would probably be similar to what we have for the webhook example, right? Where you're like, okay, great, do whatever it is that you actually need to do to get going, which for you is very simple, right? Because you just have some example YAML files for the operator that you would push and for the application.
Yeah.
And then run through those commands. So it becomes something very simple for people to be able to sort of follow along with.
Yeah,
Make sense?
It makes total sense. And I think even the operator documentation on the surface would be pretty similar to that. Pretty much deploying operator, what samples you have available, and that's it.
Absolutely. And then that would make it very easy to go add a set of operator examples into deployment K8s, which again, we would then know that they keep working because they would get tested every time.
Right.
Because documentation falling out of use is a problem. So
Alexander, I think if I will have time, I will be able to help with that.
Cool. That's pretty cool, man. Thanks, Large. I think, yeah, I think it's not a big deal to put that together. I just need also to understand how I have access to commit if I need access. I'm not sure, but I could push PRs as well against the deployment K8s. Just not sure what would trigger that, but anyway, whatever.
yeah, we can totally help you with that, because essentially what the little bit of magic, and I'll just sort of show you in a very simple example that handles the push, is just a GitHub action. So
Okay.
we have a very simple GitHub action to update deployments, and effectively it triggers on pushes to branch main, in other words, things that are merged, or an auto merge for stuff that comes in. You wouldn't need the auto merge case because you don't have dependencies we're pushing from. And it just goes out and it effectively creates a commit message, checks out deployments K8s, and goes through with a find and replaces any of the versions of its NSCs in there. So we just update the NSC versions, like the container tags basically. And with the container tags, then it pushes the update to K8s automatically, and it runs through CI on deployment K8s. So you wouldn't have to trigger anything manually as long as you had a job like this for the operator. It would just, every time something successfully merged to the operator, it would attempt to push something to deployment K8s. And as long as that succeeded, deployment K8s would basically finish, auto merge that. If it passes CI there, then it gets pushed onto integration tests. Integration tests compiles it to a bunch of Go tests. And from there, you just trickle down the pipeline. So, it shouldn't, once it's set up, and it's not hugely hard to set up, it's pretty simple. You wouldn't really need to do anything other than just your normal development in the NSM operator repo, and or any examples you wanted to put in deployment K8s, so that they could actually go and be tested.
Got it. Yeah, to me, it makes total sense. You are running now against a Kubernetes cluster or multiple versions of Kubernetes, right?
Yeah, so Kind runs against a whole swath of Kubernetes versions. So okay. I think, let me go find a recent pull request that's actually been successfully merged, right? So if you look at this update from integration tests in Kind, right, and we go take a look at its checks, it actually runs against 1.24, 1.23, 1.221, 1.21, 1.20, 1.18, 19, and 1.18. And we also test it with the Calico CNI plugin where we share a VPP instance. And we also do some inter-domain testing where we spawn multiple Kind clusters, and we test sort of floating inter-domain kinds of cases.
Okay, I need to do my test as well because I'm not sure about 118, 119, because the CRD itself as a kind changed from beta to V1. And this operator is using V1.
This happens over time, and we can certainly talk about it and work that out. We for example, we recently dropped 1.17 because of a similar sort of shift.
Okay.
Right. So don't consider the version list written in stone. That's always open to discussion. But effectively, we can sort of work through that. And yeah, you do wind up with the whole things moving from beta stuff, and yeah.
I think when the API changes is the biggest challenge. So I had a pretty painful moment doing the opposite, like moving from beta to V1 in multiple operators. So yeah.
But so I mean that runs, and then of course the other thing that's kind of convenient is it also then goes and runs against GKE, AKS, Packet, AWS. This is sort of where I was getting on about OpenShift, because at some point it would be nice to get OpenShift as an environment we run against as part of CI. But
right.
I think probably getting the NSM operator into circulation here would be very valuable for everybody, because at that point we know it works. We've got a good set of documentation we can point people to, and say, here's how you use the operator.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense, and I believe OpenShift can fit there. But we can also do another thing, which is creating a bundle and moving that internally into OpenShift, and then it would land on a pipeline at Red Hat, actually, as a community operator, not as a Red Hat provided operator, but as a community operator. That can help. That can help as well.
That would be awesome. I would love to figure out how to go about doing that.
Yeah. So yeah, we do have a meeting that happens every couple of weeks. I mean, when I say we, it's me, it's Lard, Lionel, and Johan. So if folks want to join, we may share as well the link for this meeting. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, if you guys are open to that being a public meeting, I'm delighted to get that onto our calendar and add that to our list of sort of meetings that folks can go to and find.
Totally. It happens. I don't know if the time is good. It happens on Wednesday. Wednesdays, it is 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. EST, Eastern Time.
Could you add a link to that to the meeting minutes as well here for folks?
Yeah, I'm checking that right now.
With that, we are above the time.
Yeah.
So if you can add that to the agenda, and anyone who's interested in it for this week knows where to find it, and we can bring it up again next week to close the loop on that. Will that suffice, or is there something important that we need to get across before we close? Let me rephrase, not important, but rather urgent. Okay, not hearing anything. So yeah, I want to thank you for your time and for showing us and for the collaboration opportunity here. With that, I want to thank everyone for your time, and we will see you all again at the same time next week. Take care and have a good day.
Sure. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.